Good evening, folks. On today's installment of Shonen What You've Got, we're going to be talking about what is quickly becoming one of the most iconic battles in recent manga history, the Shinjuku Showdown. But before we continue, if you are not caught up on the Jujutsu Kaisen manga, I must unfortunately ask you to hit that dial. A shout out to Tony for the sponsored video. He wanted to know more about the Sukuna Gojo domain clashes, so that's what we're going to be going over today. Alright, the first thing we need to talk about is the refinement of each of these domains, and we are told that they are basically equal. Now, in a normal domain clash, the more refined will take over and win, right? But this is a bit of a unique situation because Sukuna's domain doesn't have a barrier, so that normal clash doesn't happen. Yet we are still told that their refinement is equal, and this results in the sure hit effect of both domains canceling out. So let's talk about this first clash. Now, the domain's refinement is equal, however, the domains themselves are not, because again, Sukuna has a barrierless domain, so his range extends further than Gojo's does. Now, this obviously isn't to scale, but imagine this black circle in the middle here is Gojo's domain, and this white circle that is surrounding it is Sukuna's domain. So, Gojo's domain is inside of Sukuna's domain, so this white area out here is able to attack the outside of Gojo's barrier, which the outside of a domain is much weaker than the inside. So because of this, Sukuna is able to destroy Gojo's domain and win the first clash. So at this point, Gojo is stuck in Sukuna's domain and they continue fighting, right? Gojo has to use RCT to heal through the wounds. He uses simple domain here, and then he destroys the part of his brain that has the curse technique engraved on it, and then replenishes it with RCT, which replenishes his burnt out curse technique. So it's at this point that Gojo uses red and deals enough damage to Sukuna that Sukuna's domain crashes. This brings us to the second domain clash, and here, both of them start using binding vows to change the properties of their domains. In Gojo's case, he's going to swap the durability of the outside of his domain with the inside, so that the outside will be able to withstand the attacks coming from Sukuna's domain. Now, what Sukuna did is he took the portion of Malevolent Shrine that was inside of Gojo's domain, and he made that weaker. He made it weaker by sacrificing his sure hit effect. But in return for that, on the outside of Gojo's domain, Malevolent Shrine got much stronger. And so much stronger, in fact, that it was able to break through Gojo's now more durable barrier. However, there's some important things to note about this. Because Sukuna sacrificed the sure hit effect inside Gojo's domain, that now means that Gojo's Infinite Void should hit Sukuna because they're no longer canceling each other out. It doesn't because Sukuna uses domain amplification, which now lets him get through Gojo's infinity and actually touch him. So Sukuna is touching Gojo throughout this entire clash so that he's not affected by Unlimited Void, because Gojo himself and whoever he's touching aren't affected by it. So now with these binding vows in place, Gojo and Sukuna are having their little dance in here with Sukuna touching Gojo at all times until the outside of Gojo's barrier is destroyed once again by Sukuna's slashes. So once again, we have Gojo trapped in Sukuna's domain expansion. This time he uses Falling Blossom Emotion, which is kind of like a simple domain, but not quite. He does this to buy himself enough time to destroy his brain once more and then replenish it in order to refresh his curse technique. He then opens his third domain expansion. But remember, this is still Sukuna's second. Here's where things start to get trippy. Gojo expands his third domain, and initially it's huge. However, he then shrinks it, and it gets smaller and smaller until it's smaller than even a basketball, and yet impossibly, he and Sukuna are still inside. It's speculated that Gojo learned this type of spatial manipulation due to his time in the prison realm. And why does he do this? Well, he does it to make his barrier that much stronger. By being so small, it's way more durable. So now we've got a situation that looks something like this. Again, not to scale, but we have Gojo's tiny domain inside he and Sukuna are fighting. Meanwhile, Sukuna's domain is trying to destroy his barrier from the outside. Now we don't get to see what happens inside of that small domain. All we know is that exactly 3 minutes and 9 seconds later, Gojo's barrier is destroyed by Sukuna's domain. However, at the exact same time, Sukuna's domain is destroyed due to the damage Gojo did to him. It's at this point that Gojo is wondering why Sukuna isn't using the 10 shadows while they're fighting in the domain against each other, and also why hasn't Sukuna tried to destroy the inside of his domain. However, we as readers know that Sukuna is using the 10 shadows. He's just using it in a way that Gojo can't see. He's doing that by having Megami adapt to Unlimited Void through the Dharma Chakra wheel
in the shadows. So he is using 10 shadows, and he's not destroying the inside because he wants Megami to start adapting to that for Mahoraga. It's at this point that we have the next domain clash. This is Gojo's 4th domain and Sukuna's 3rd. So this is the scenario once more, and it's basically a race against time. Because remember, Sukuna needs exactly 3 minutes and 9 seconds to destroy Gojo's barrier from the outside. So if Gojo can beat up Sukuna enough to make his domain collapse before that 3 minutes and 9 seconds happens, then Sukuna is going to be trapped in Gojo's domain with no defense against it, and he's going to get hit by Unlimited Void. So once again, both domains collapse at the exact same time, 3 minutes and 9 seconds. And as you can see, Sukuna's looking pretty roughed up from the damage Gojo did to him. The pair then open their domains once more. This is Gojo's 5th time doing so and Sukuna's 4th. However, there's an important distinction this time. Gojo is 0.01 seconds faster at opening his than Sukuna, and he's faster because Sukuna had to repair the damage Gojo did to him in the domain before he could repair his own brain to refresh his domain. So Gojo got the edge on him just slightly, and that's all it takes. So even though it was just a fraction of a second, Gojo's domain was open first, and there was nothing to counteract it. So Sukuna got affected by Unlimited Void. But y'all already know what it is. Big Daddy Raga, the Obstapa, showed up and protected his son from Gojo. And Mahoraga was already adapted to Unlimited Void, so it didn't affect him, and he destroyed Gojo's domain from the inside. And that, my friends, was the last domain clash of this battle. Gojo can't expand his domain anymore because he destroyed his brain and healed it so many times that it's finally taking its toll on him. And Sukuna can't open up his domain, partially for that reason, but if you'll recall, Sukuna didn't open up as many domains as Gojo, so in addition to that, his brain took a lot of damage from the Unlimited Void, so he can't open up his anymore either. But yeah, this was an incredible fight, and I just loved the chess match nature of these domain clashes, but as with a lot of things in JJK, it can get pretty complex and nuanced, so I hope that helped clear things up.